Yanagi joined our ranks nearly 2 years ago, and since then a lot has changed. And with that, not only her teams, but also her best builds, and there is a good chance you might not be building her correctly nowadays. So let's fix that today. Welcome, I'm Rivyn Elowen, but you may call me Rivy, and this is your complete updated guide to ZZZ Yanagi. Yanagi is an electric anomaly DPS who excels at disorders and most so important polarity disorders. Fortunately for us, her kit is rather easy to understand, so let's have a look. Yanagi has two 5-part basic attack strings, and they change depending on her current stance, those being either Kagen or Yogen. Casting either her special, EX special or assist follow-up will have her switch between the two stances. Whether she is in her Kagen or Yogen stance is indicated right below her HP bar and technically also visible on her hair ornament. While she is in her Yogen stance, she gains 10% electric damage bonus, and while she is in Kagen, she gains 10% pen ratio instead. These effects will also linger for 8 seconds after switching stances, and ideally that means you always want both of these to glow, which to be fair is not all that difficult. Lastly, she also gains increased interrupt levels for her basic attacks while in either stance. Casting her special after the 3rd, 4th or 5th hit of her basic attack increases the speed at which she slashes and changes also her stance. She will also gain Swift Routen, a short buff that blocks all enemy attacks while active, and it allows her to directly follow up with the 3rd hit of her basic attack string. This is effectively just a short parry. Her EX special costs 40 energy, is cast by holding down the special button and consists of 2 parts, a thrust attack and a downward slash. After executing the thrust, she enters a state for 15 seconds, during which any basic attack will start from the 3rd hit. The downward slash deals surprise damage, inflicts a good chunk of electric anomaly, and more importantly, triggers a polarity disorder. Polarity disorder should be well known by today, but at least Yanagi's is somewhat special. Yanagi's polarity disorder deals damage equal to 15% of the original disorder, plus a large amount of her AP. The latter is rather important as it heavily influences how much she values anomaly proficiency and hence how we want to build her. Her dodge and dash are nothing special, and her quick assist follow-up, dodge counter and chain attack are neither, but they all can be followed up with the 3rd hit of her basic attack string as well. Her ultimate deals a good chunk of damage, inflicts a large amount of anomaly and more importantly triggers a polarity disorder as well. As for her core skill, it increases the damage multiplier of disorders by 250% for 15 seconds after using her EX special, and also increases her electric damage by 20% for the same duration as well if said EX special hits an enemy. This takes the effective disorder MV from 450% to 700%. Lastly, her additional ability is activated if another character in the squad is either an anomaly agent or shares the same attribute, and it increases her electric anomaly build-up by 45% for 8 seconds after switching stances or hitting an enemy. This would be really nice, but nowadays within her best team of Nangong and Yuzua, she does not gain this additional ability. That is important to note as it makes anomaly build-up and hence also her signature a bit more valuable for her. Most of her damage comes from her polarity disorders as well as the regular ones, with a shock fluctuating widely depending on how you play. The more disorders you trigger rather quickly in succession, the less damage shock will contribute. Because her polarity disorders scale with her EX and ultimate skill levels, we want to prioritize it as such. Focus first and foremost on her core, EX and ultimate, then her assist, followed by her basics, and lastly dodge. Yanagi's best in slot is her signature, but not by too much, at least at R1 that is. Her signature refinements are very good however, and because we can now reasonably obtain it, I would advertise it as such. Otherwise, use Beeping Gemini as per usual. Chaos Jazz is still one of the better sets to use for her, albeit it is not ideal. We just don't really have a better set available right now. Due to her AP scaling on her polarity disorders, Yanagi just simply really likes AP. Hormone Punk is a good alternative, especially in the Lina teams, but given how disorders and polarity disorders work with wind and windswept, or well in this case don't really work that well, I would not recommend it. Thunder Metal is nowadays kinda dead unless you play Mono Shock. For the 2-piece, prioritize a 2-piece Freedom Blues, but Puffer Electro works nicely as well, choose whatever has better substats. Yanagi's best layout is Anomaly Proficiency in slot 4, Pen Ratio in slot 5, and Energy Regeneration in slot 6. The additional ER allows for much more EX specials and hence also polarity disorders, and the anomaly built up through those additional EXs make more than up for the loss in anomaly mastery. For her substats, a focus on anomaly proficiency first and foremost, then attack percent, followed by flat pen, and lastly flat attack. Due to her additional AP scaling on her polarity disorders, she effectively somewhat double dips on AP. Yanagi's Mindscapes are somewhat mid. Her M1 effectively grants her 80 AP, which is good but not necessarily game-breaking either. Her Mindscape 2's value, however, depends a lot. On paper, it is not a very good Mindscape and simply more of a quality of life change rather than a direct damage gain. However, the increased EX thrust anomaly build-up allows us to trigger shock using said additional thrusts, which then in turn allows us to effectively trigger a disorder without time delay, increasing the damage of the disorders. This is not something that can nicely be calculated on paper, as it requires the player to time their EXs and play around this. Hence, this Mindscape can be better than shown here for experienced Yanagi players, but it might also not change much for the average player. Her M3 and M5 exist, and her M4 grants a team-wide 16% pen ratio. Actually, a rather good M4. Her M6 builds upon her M2 and is just fine. Nothing outstanding, but we get a much higher polarity disorder damage now. Yanagi's teams have changed quite a lot since her release, and her newest best team is with Nangongyu and Yuzura. Yanagi does not gain her additional ability here, as already previously mentioned, so she misses out on 45% electric buildup, but the team plays super smooth and can also score pretty high. With remielle, triple anomaly teams are a thing now, so just slot whoever you like into the second slot. Personally, I prefer Vivian or Bernice, but it should be mentioned that electric for Yanagi and Bernice, fire usually do not pair all too well in DA. Because, well, most bosses who have the fire weakness have an electric resistance and vice versa, you know. Anyway, Monoshock is still a thing as well, and with Rina now granting better buffs than before, actually not the worst. However, you will notice a pretty big difference between Yanagi's best teams and, well, this one. Lastly, a short shout out to a Nicole Rina team, which is a very specific setup, which was primarily used in the past versus Typhon, as Bro basically stuns himself. Whether or not Typhon will ever return is a different question, however. Yanagi is now a standard banner character, and she is still a pretty good one at that. She is easy to play and build, has, with remielle now being here, quite a few teams available, and her signature has very good refinements. On the other hand, she does not work very well with wind, and at least at M0 is also quite a bit behind an M6 Grace with Velina. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave us a like and a comment about your thoughts on Yanagi, and of course join the Discord. We also have merch now, yippee! You can find a link in the description. A special thanks goes to all the lovely people over on Patreon and all my beautiful YouTube members. Thank you so much for supporting me, and if you would like to support me as well, click the Patreon link in the description or simply the join button right below this video. And with that, I wish you a beautiful day. Peace!